They say a mother's love is eternal, but what happens when that love is discarded, like old furniture, too worn to be of use? I never imagined I'd die alone, heartbroken, humiliated in a nursing home where no one knows my birthday, my favorite song, or even my name, unless it's written on a chart. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old, and I have lung cancer stage 4. I don't have much time left, and I no longer pretend that I'm waiting for anyone to visit. My son David hasn't called in months. Not a text, not a postcard, nothing. The boy I once held in my arms now lives behind a gated villa with 2 dogs, a shiny car, and a wife who never liked me. He doesn't know how much I ache, not from the cancer, but from the silence. Every creak of the nursing home floorboards reminds me of my bones, fragile, forgotten. The nurses smile, but their eyes flicker with duty, not affection. I lie here each night watching the ceiling fan turn in slow circles, and all I can think is, I gave everything to that boy. I gave him my strength. I worked double shifts at the textile factory after his father died in a car crash. I sold the gold bracelet my own mother gave me just so he could go on his school field trip. I ate rice with salt while he ate meat. I told him he was smart, strong, destined for greatness because I needed him to believe it, even when I didn't believe in myself. Now I am a file in a cabinet, a bed in room 6C. Patient is no longer ambulatory, terminal. That's what they wrote last week. And yet I can't stop remembering the last conversation we had before he left me here. He smiled awkwardly and said, "It's better this way, Mom. You'll have nurses 24/7. It's more comfortable. Comfortable. This place smells like bleach and regret." I wanted to scream, "You are my comfort, your voice, your presence." But I stayed silent, because mothers protect, even when they're breaking. Today the nurse wheeled in an old man crying because his daughter forgot his birthday. I didn't have the heart to tell him I haven't seen mine in 3 years. I just nodded and we cried together, 2 ghosts of parents haunting the halls of ungrateful children. I'm starting to forget things now. My memories fade like watercolor in the rain. But the pain is vivid, crystal clear. Every second I spend in this place, I wonder, was I a fool to love so blindly? And yet I still ask the nurse to keep the phone line open, just in case. Just in case. I wasn't always this brittle, this invisible. There was a time when the sound of my name meant something, when little David would scream, "Mommy," and run into my arms like I was his whole world. I still remember the weight of his body against mine, the first time he had a fever. He was just 4 small, burning hot and trembling. I sat up all night cooling his forehead with damp towels, whispering lullabies that my own mother used to hum. I didn't sleep. I didn't dare to. The fear of losing him was stronger than my own exhaustion. His father, Michael, had already passed away by then, killed instantly when his motorbike collided with a drunk driver. I was 29, a widow, no money, no plan, just a factory job and a baby who needed everything from me. The funeral was brief. I barely cried. I didn't have the luxury. There was laundry to do, milk to buy. Life goes on even when your heart doesn't. I took every extra shift, sewed buttons until my fingers cracked and bled. Sometimes I left David at our neighbor's place with nothing more than a bowl of rice and a kiss. The guilt ate me alive. But I told myself, one day he'll understand. One day he'll thank me. I believed that. It was all I had. When he turned 8, I saved for 6 months to buy him a secondhand bicycle. He cried tears of joy and called me the best mom in the world. That day I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was doing something right. I held on to that moment during the darkest years. I never remarried. Not because I didn't have offers, I did. Men who liked that I cooked well or pitied my loneliness. But I couldn't bring another man into David's life not when I'd sworn to make him my sole purpose. I didn't want him to feel replaced or confused, so I buried my own needs. As he grew, so did the distance. Not physically, he still lived under my roof, but emotionally. He stopped sharing his thoughts, stopped asking for help. I blamed puberty, then college, then work. But deep down I knew I was slowly becoming obsolete. Still, I endured. I was there for every graduation, every heartbreak, every career milestone. When he got his first job in a foreign firm, I celebrated by cooking his favorite dishes. He was too busy to eat them. When he married a girl from a wealthy family, I wore my old dress to their wedding, hiding my embarrassment behind smiles. She barely looked at me. He barely defended me. But I held my head high because I was proud and quietly terrified. Terrified that all those years of sacrifice had raised a man who no longer needed his mother. Terrified that I would one day knock on his door and he would not answer. I never expected to be right. The first real fracture came subtly, as all things do, when love begins to erode, not with a fight, but with a sigh. It was after he got promoted to regional manager. I was so proud I baked banana bread the way he liked it growing up. I called him over for dinner, left his favorite dishes steaming on the table. He texted me 5 hours later, sorry, too tired, another time. That another time never came. I excused at work stress responsibilities. But the truth, his new life had no room for me. When his wife became pregnant, I knitted booties with trembling hands. I imagined babysitting, feeding, rocking my grandchild in my lap. I delivered the gift to their home myself. She didn't even invite me in. Just took the bag and muttered, thanks. We'll let you know if we need help. As if I were a stranger applying for part-time affection. They never brought the baby to visit me, not once. I watched photos posted online, birthdays, park outings, a beach trip. I enlarged every image on the old tablet I kept hidden in my drawer. I stared at my grandson's smile, memorizing the curve of his cheeks. He looked so much like David did at that age it hurts. Only this time I wasn't the one behind the camera. Then came the ride, the day he said, let's check out a new place. He drove, I trusted. He signed forms, I stayed silent. The moment he kissed my forehead and walked out of that nursing home lobby, I knew I wasn't his mother anymore. I was a duty, a task he had checked off. Now I sit by the window every morning listening to others getting visitors, flowers, birthdays. Me, I get a refill of morphine in silence. I wonder, what did I do wrong? I gave too much, or maybe I just loved the wrong way. It was raining the day they admitted me into room 6C. A nurse wheeled me past a long corridor of dim yellow lights and peeling paint, her footsteps echoing like a countdown. I passed faces, some blank, some lost, some like mine eyes still searching for someone who wasn't coming. When she parked me beside the bed, she adjusted the sheets and said, "Don't worry, it's quiet here." Too quiet. My roommate Eleanor hadn't spoken a word in 3 weeks. She just stared at a photo of her daughter taped above her bed, lips trembling, as if hoping the paper would move. I taped my grandson's photo beside mine. The ink's faded now from the damp, but I refused to take it down. It's the only proof I ever had a family. The staff is kind enough, but mechanical. They ask if I'm in pain, if I've eaten, if I've gone to the toilet, but no one asks if I'm lonely. I'm always lonely. Sometimes at night I dream I'm back home, my real home. I'm standing in the kitchen with a worn-out apron laughing as David runs around with toy swords and paper hats. He would call me Queen Mom, his silly way of making me laugh. In my dream, his voice is clear, real. But then I wake to the humming of fluorescent lights and the sound of someone coughing through the wall. 3 months ago, I wrote my will. It's short. There's not much to leave behind: some old jewelry, a savings account, and a shoebox full of memories. But I did write him a letter. It's under my pillow now. I don't know if he'll ever come back to find it. I don't even know if he remembers I'm still alive. But I wrote it anyway. I wrote about everything: the nights I skipped meals, so he could eat the times I kissed his scraped knees, the time I walked 3 kilometers in the rain to bring his forgotten homework to school. I didn't write to blame. I wrote to remind him, to let him know that I was more than just a name on a medical chart, because I fear that if I die here silent and unclaimed, the world will forget I ever existed. I leave the letter there, folded carefully, every night. A nurse once asked me what it was. I told her it was just a prayer. Maybe it is. A prayer that someday guilt will knock on his heart, and he'll want to know who I truly was, that he'll read my words and understand the depth of the love he cast aside. If nothing else, I hope it haunts him not out of vengeance, but so he'll never do the same to his own child. Because that's the curse, isn't it? What we do to our parents, our children may do to us. This morning the sun came through the window, a little brighter than usual. A nurse whispered, "Your son's coming today." I didn't believe her at first. I thought maybe she had me confused with someone else. But by noon I saw him, David, standing stiff at the end of the hallway, wearing a crisp white shirt and an expression I couldn't read. He walked slowly, like he was afraid of what he might see, or maybe afraid of what he might feel. When he finally stepped into the room, I felt both elated and sick. He didn't hug me, just said, "Hi, Mom," like I was someone he bumped into at a store. He sat in the chair beside the bed and looked around. "It's not bad," he mumbled. "Not bad." I wanted to laugh. This place reeks of disinfectant and regret. I nodded, unsure if my voice would hold. "You look healthy," I said, even though his eyes were sunken and tired. Maybe guilt doesn't let people sleep. There was a long pause before he spoke again. "I brought you some things." He pulled out a paper bag, a blanket, a bottle of vitamins, and a picture his son, my grandson, had drawn. It was a crooked house with 4 stick figures. I wasn't one of them. "I told him to draw, Grandma," David said, scratching his neck, "but he doesn't remember you." My heart cracked quietly. I studied his face while he looked at the floor. Lines had formed on his forehead, a sign that life wasn't as easy as he made it seem. For a moment he looked like the little boy who once clung to me after nightmares. But then he said something that chilled me. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. You were getting sick, and I have my own life now." That was it. Not "I miss you," not "I love you." Just a polite apology from a son who left his mother to fade away behind locked doors and sterile sheets. I turned to the window. "It's all right," I said. But it wasn't. I didn't tell him about the letter. Not yet. I wanted him to find it on his own. I wanted him to read it not out of obligation, but because something inside him needed to. He left after 20 minutes, said he had a meeting, kissed my forehead with the same lips that once cried for me as a child. He walked out and I stared at the door long after it closed. Something shifted in me that day. I no longer waited. The phone could stay silent. The window could stay empty. But I had said what I needed to say. In that quiet moment after his visit, I pulled the letter from under my pillow, added one final line. "Even now I love you and I forgive you." Then I placed it back, folded neatly, waiting. The days blur now. Meals, pills, naps, more pills. The nurses speak gently to me, like they know the end is near. I feel it too. My lungs rattle when I breathe, and my vision dims around the edges like a photograph burning slowly from the outside in. But I'm not afraid. Last night I dreamed of Michael, my husband, standing in the kitchen in his old blue shirt, smiling at me while holding David as a baby. I couldn't reach them. I called out, but they turned and faded into white. When I woke, there were tears on my cheeks and a strange peace in my chest. Maybe he's waiting. A priest came by this morning offering to pray. I said yes, not because I fear what's next, but because I wanted anyone to remember me as something more than a name on a bed chart. He held my hand, said kind words. I didn't remember all of them, but I heard the word love again, and that was enough. Later, a nurse named Emma came to change my IV. She's young, maybe David's age. She asked if I had any family. I smiled weakly and said I had a son once. She didn't ask more, but her eyes softened. Before she left, she placed a small flower on my nightstand. I looked at it for a long time, such a tiny thing. Yet it made me feel seen. That evening I felt the pain surge like fire. They upped my morphine dose. Everything blurred, but in that haze I turned my head slightly and saw the letter still beneath my pillow, untouched. He didn't come back. I knew he wouldn't. But the letter wasn't just for him anymore. It was for me, my truth, my memory, my last breath. As night fell, I asked Emma to sit with me. I told her the story of love and sacrifice, of silence and abandonment. She held my hand and we cried together. Before she left, I gave her the letter. If he comes back, I whispered, give this to him. And now I lie here, lungs aching, hands cold, and heart finally light. I am not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm just a mother who loved too deeply and was left behind in the shallows. But I loved, and that matters. And when the darkness comes tonight, I will close my eyes knowing I was not forgotten by the universe, because I remember myself. And that is enough. If you are reading this, I hope you pause, truly pause, and ask yourself, when was the last time I called my mother, my father? We grow up believing our parents are indestructible, that their love is a given, that they will always be there. But they are not. Their bodies grow frail, their hearts wear thin, and their silence begins to ache. This story is not a cry for pity, it is a warning. A warning that the people who raised us, protected us, sacrificed for us can be broken not just by illness but by our absence. Love is not a grand gesture. Sometimes it's just showing up, listening, holding a hand. If you still have a parent alive, visit them. If you're angry, forgive. If you're busy, make time. Because one day you'll walk into an empty room where they used to be and you'll wish you'd done more. Do it now before it's too late.